This is Simplified Success, the podcast, hosted by myself, Krystal Blackard.
And me, Lindsay Reynolds.
Between the two of us, we have cultivated over $60 million in sales online. We have led big teams and operated in very high pressure environments where leadership either frankly stabilizes or everything completely falls apart. Right, Linz?
Yeah. And everything else in between, from being each other's weddings to making sourdough, helping each other be good moms and raise kids. Man, we have a blast on here, and we feel just so excited to have you guys be hearing the podcast and be on here, because we feel like this is just a place for us to be able to pour back into you and serve well, from all the cool places that we've had the opportunity to. Our fun pastimes are whiteboarding out our next business opportunity. So
Absolutely.
welcome to our fun conversations.
Absolutely. We move fast and we build smart, and we have a lot of fun here. So welcome to Simplified Success, the podcast. It has been a minute, you guys, since I have had my partner in not crime back in the pod studio with us, and I am so flippin' happy to have
It's been a
Lindsay
really
back.
long time, like
It's been
way too
too long.
long.
It's been
Way
too
too
long.
long. Yeah, we're
Way
not going to
too
do this again. We already discussed
No.
this. Doing this
No,
again.
we're not. We have it in like a blood oath that it won't happen
Yeah.
again.
It's actually in the project plan so that we won't happen again.
Yeah, exactly. But with that said, that little like quiet spell from Lindsay didn't mean that there wasn't anything going on. So there's been so much cool stuff going on behind the scenes with Lindsay. So first of all, Lindsay, we need a minute to catch up with like all things going on with you, because everybody gets all things going on with Krystal all the time, everywhere, all day, every day, because that's just how I am. But catch us up on your life. Like, where are you? What are you doing? Talk about the transitions, talk about the seasons you're walking out of, like, Give us the spill the tea, Lindsay.
I know it's been a minute. So it's been kind of a wild couple of months. I think it's been about that long since I've been on the podcast. Like Krystal said, I've been doing a lot behind the scenes. We do some really cool enterprise work. And so a lot of my KL focus has been like over serving our clients. And so a lot of my time gets spent there. But then personally, I've had all kinds of cool things happen. So we've been over the last few years living in a model home. We were preparing getting that up for sale, which was quite a journey, mostly because we have like...
Wait a minute. Well, this is model home. I'm going to clarify something for you. Model home is like 6,000 square feet, six bedrooms.
It's a lot. It's a big house.
Maybe 4, 6 bathrooms, like maybe 17 bedroom, maybe not 17.
Yeah.
You guys, it's like it's a house. It's a house.
Yeah.
And
so we build high-end custom homes. So to be a model home for a high-end custom home, it is definitely that. It wasn't necessarily our plan to live in it. It's just the way that it worked out. And so we've super loved this season, and like that's part of, so as a family, we own a home building company called For the Duration Homes, FDD Homes. You guys, if you're following so Krystal and I, we have all these different channels, right? So we have like Krystal's personal channel and my personal brand, my personal channel. And then we have, the KL brand, and we have all the Krystal and Lindsay brand, and we have all the things. But on my business side, so Krystal and her husband have an incredible business too. Like we all have to have different things. But on the FTD home side, we had this home that we built. It's an award-winning home for our community, and it has won national awards. And so it was just time for it to now find its new owners. But to do that, it's really interesting because we've talked a lot about like Align Life, and in Align Life, you decide, like kind of not decide, but you really like pray about and take time to really get clear on like what season you're walking into. And, I knew this year was going to be a purging season. Like I knew that walking into it. I just didn't know how much and what that would actually mean. And so it's been purging in all the places. But when you talk like physical things, we have donated so many things. We have gotten rid of so many things. Husband's even gotten on the bandwagon, and he even got rid of things from high school. And so we have just been like heavy purge, and it worked out perfect timing wise, because unfortunately there was a pretty bad fire over here in our area, and it took out a good chunk of homes. And so a lot of people were without a lot of things. And so it actually worked out great timing wise, because we were able to donate so much stuff. Like I've been holding all these baby clothes, and like I do hope at some point we have another kid, but I looked at Ryan and I was like, we'll just buy new clothes. Like, I am not gonna if we have another girl, like, I kept a handful of things that I really cared about, but I was like, man, we don't need to carry this stuff from house to house to house. And frankly, people could use it right now. And like, man, we'll just rebuy some onesies. It'll be okay. So we went through and just, I mean, decluttered. And I can't tell you, it's interesting. Like, Krystal's always really good about this. And it's something that maybe hasn't necessarily been an over priority. And mostly probably because Krystal's always worked from home. And so her house is always like, there's not a lot of clutter. There's not a lot of stuff. It's all like very minimal from that perspective. And not because she doesn't like things, because she likes things and she likes nice things, but she doesn't have a bunch of things. And I think when you don't do that intentionally, you end up with just like a lot of things. And so in doing that, like our house is like very, very leaned out when we pre-moved out. And so we took a chunk of like sentimental things and things like that into our warehouse. And so our house is very like thing decluttered, which I think has made a huge difference in how I feel when I like walk around our house.
Oh my,
But also our house is for sale, so we have to be like show ready all the time. So the dishes are always done, our beds are always made. And I've always been a person who thinks making beds is such a waste of time because like it's so dumb because you make it and then you unmake it like 8 hours later. So it just like.
Can I tell you a secret? Can I tell you a little secret about me that you probably don't know?
What?
If I don't make my bed in the morning, I make my bed 5 minutes before Chad and I get into it. Not even joking. You can ask.
Make it to unmake it?
I hate getting into an unmade bed.
So
it crawls all over me. You can ask him. He makes fun of me. You should ask him. You should be like, really just, yeah, that's like part of my neuroses, but I own it.
So funny. Well, so it's funny because it was an adjustment for Ryan not to make the bed when we got married because I'm an efficiency person. Seems like a waste of time to me to make the bed just to unmake it. I don't know why. But I will say in my old age that I currently am at, in the season I am in, having a bed.
Your old age.
In my old age, I'm air quoting right now. In my old age, having my bed made has actually been really great. But so decluttering all the things there. Same thing at our other house, like our office. We've just been like decluttering, decleaning. It's just been decleaning. I made a shift in my quote unquote day job, and I moved into a new incredible role that I feel very strongly that I was very much called to, and so I feel super blessed to be able to work in this new organization.
So I want to like unpack that just a little bit because it's a little bit of a journey, right? Like. A lot of prayer because and just to kind of set this up for Lindsay, because I know Lindsay and she won't give herself credit here because she's humble. But yeah, but Lindsay had an amazing like career. She's had an amazing career, and she had an amazing corporate job for an amazing company who did amazing things and had great benefits and great pay. Like, and she had a good position where she was respected and had just had all the things kind of like there was nothing bad about it. But coming into this season of purge, right? I think she knew that there was going to come a point where she would not be going into a corporate office anymore and really trading that for working from home, more of a hybrid lifestyle of being able to kind of do all the things, because that's if you guys know Lindsay, if you've spent even 5 minutes with Lindsay, you pick that vibe up really, really fast. Like you can't help that. And so just want to call that out on her behalf because she's very humble. So, but also because Lindsay is so loyal, that was a really hard transition for you, Linz. And so talk a little bit about that because God was so faithful and we definitely prayed about that. And we really prayed that if the doors were supposed to open, that they would. And if they didn't, they would slam shut. And I don't want to like steal your thunder, but walk through that process.
It was hard because I wasn't looking for anything. The organization that I've moved to is one that I've been exposed to and worked with as a client for a number of years. So I knew the team there. But it just wasn't something that I was necessarily looking for. It just was something that it just continued to work out, and the job, what they needed was very much in alignment with my skill set, and the culture and all the things. But it was really tough because I'm not really a stand in two places kind of person. Like I'm very much like I'm here and I'm doing my work and I'm very committed. And that's also how we work when we work with our clients too. Like it's really tough to not be all in on clients, which is part of why we're so choosy about what clients we do enterprise work for, because we take on all of those pieces. And so for me, it was really tough, like living in this one world and then not sure if this other world was going to be the new world. And it did take a period of time to go through that process. It was a good couple of months of not being sure. And I'm definitely somebody who gets security out of knowing what my next chunk of time looks like. And so it took a different level of faith and stepping into this idea. And like Krystal said, there was tons of conversations around, man, if this is not for us, like slam the door shut, right? And if it's for us, let's make it really clear. And that's something that like is very much on the forefront of like all of the conversations and all the prayers in our house these days is like, man, if it's not for us, it's not from God, like I don't want it. And so it took us some time to kind of get through that. And then as we were going through the process, like different pieces were kind of like stop go. And man, it was such a relief. And then to like finally know, okay, this is the decision that we're making, this is the right thing, and then making that decision, and then the transition. And so while I was transitioning, I gave the organization that I was with, I gave them a window, like whatever they wanted. What was most important to me was that team was still successful. And they had built a lot of things around me being there. And so there was like a level of guilt around that, if I'm being completely honest, because I care a lot about those people and I care a lot about the organization. And I really, really enjoyed a lot of the parts that I got to do there. I mean, you don't get lucky enough to have jobs where the majority of what you do is things you like that's not like you can work towards that. And that's really cool. But when you get that, like the last thing you want to do is like the people who helped make that possible be like, all right, deuces, And so the transition out was really interesting. And I was trying to get so many things done. And so the last few weeks there were a lot because I was working a lot to try to finish and put as much like closed ends around as much as I could. And then I took a week in between, and that was decluttering my house. And so it was like literally packing for a week. And then I started the new job. And so it's been really, really good. And I feel more at peace about all of it. I feel like it was definitely the right thing. And I'm really grateful that I get to help serve and grow in another way. But help an organization like this. I think it's going to be really, really, really fun.
Super cool. And it's super in alignment with who you are as a human, the culture, what they build, what they have you building it. And also too, like just from a friend and a business partner standpoint, I'm really excited for you because I know the fatigue that comes with toggling different tasks, like task switching, literally going from tab to tab to tab. You guys ever like, you'll be like deep in some work of maybe building some content or working on a project, and then somebody calls and they're like, I need your taxes from 2024. What's your line C? And you're like, what? You try, like if it, and like poor Lindsay, like to her capacity, she was doing that all day long, was just constantly toggling back and forth from like one side of her brain to the other. And I mean, like I know the drain it took on you. And so the really cool thing about this is right now is you're in the same world and the same strategy field for the most part. And I think that's super important. And also too, to call that out. So one of the biggest principles and one of the biggest umbrellas that Lindsay and I function in this world of KL and Krystal and Lindsay and the Builder Academy and all the things that we do, it's about simplifying the process. It's about removing confusion and chaos. It's about bringing sustained peace into your life. Oh, how do you do that? Well, part of the ways you do sustain peace is have a lot of clarity in your work and in your business and your entrepreneurship. Have clarity and have boundaries in your marriage that are whole, that protect it, that keep it there. Your relationship with God, your kids, like how all of that structures. And so the really cool part is like it's been really fun for Lindsay and I to kind of get to walk this out together because you will notice, and as you guys know, if you've been here for any amount of time, and if you're new to the pod, then you will learn this really fast. We do not teach you things that we ourselves have not learned and walked through fiery trial more often than we'd like to have to actually say yes, indeed. But the reason that we have become such experts on it and have had the success that we've had is because we've also had the failures to go with them. And that's always a really good litmus test of people that you're learning from. Like, do they have the failures that promoted them to the success to be able to teach you what they're talking about? So I want to point that out because that's been a really cool part of Lindsay's journey as you've walked through this, Linz, and walked through these last few months. Like I've just seen some beautiful things unpacking, and it's really cool to like Lindsay's a really highly intelligent human anyways. Like if you're ever spending time with her, like she's really, really smart, really fun to hang out with. In fact, she's so smart, she's gonna rub off on you. That's how smart she is. It just kind of like fairy dust. It just kind of sprinkles everywhere. But it's really fun when she gets into like these zones of genius. And it's really fun when she gets to stay there for long periods of time because like just really cool things happen. So anyways, if you could see Lindsay, if you're not watching, go over to like YouTube and like get all in the video because Lindsay's like bright red with blush and like, oh shucks, but it's so true. It's so true.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm still and like I'll be curious to see in like another month or two, like once I've got like a better routine. Because there's other things that kind of slid over the last let's call it couple of years, right? Like we went into like a really I would say challenging and growing season over the last few years. And I say we, like my husband and I, and then definitely with KL and with you, like there's been a lot of stuff. And like in doing that, like and this is part of what we teach. And this is why I think it's so important to sort of call out, like you can be off kilter in parts of your life for a period of time, but it will always catch up with you. Right. And so as I've been so focused on all these other things, I've let other things not be as much of a priority, right? At least not consistently. And so like calling myself out, honestly, like when I really sat down in that week I called it my dead week, my dead week in between where I didn't have a quote unquote day job. Right. I really took some time to reflectively look at like where I was, like where was I really, like where was I really in our business? Where was I really, how well are we stewarding our finances? Where were we at in our relationship? When I say like we, my husband and I, where were we at with the kind of childhood we want our child to have? All those different things. Or when I looked at the health one, it was a real convicting one for me because frankly, it's the first thing that I let go. I always eat really high quality because I'm really weird about ingredients. So like my nutrition level is always really good. I always drink my water. Like those things are just things that are innately there. But me taking the time to go walk or lift or physically do things is the first thing that I let go. And so it's been kind of a rude awakening of as I'm designing, and this is where it's really interesting because if you don't do these kinds of audits on a regular enough basis, you'll miss things. I knew this wasn't a thing and I knew this was a priority. So I'm going to tell you right now, this wasn't like I had no idea I let this slide. Like, no, it was very much like, I'm going to survive through what I'm doing because I know I'm walking through a season and this thing is not going to be it. Like I made an active choice, but every choice has a consequence. Right. And like Krystal and I have talked a lot of times over the last little bit, like you get to make these choices and you get to release the garbage and you get to make better choices moving forward, but it doesn't relieve you of the consequences. And so I think sometimes we forget that, like, oh, well, I knew that when I chose it, or I've made a better choice now. That's all good and fine, but that doesn't mean that I don't now have to overcome what I didn't deal with before. Does that make sense? And it's like heavily biblical. Like I think we forget that like when you repent, it means that everything's better. And like it is, except for there's still potential consequences for the thing that you did. Like it doesn't honestly it doesn't matter, but like you still have to deal with that. And so like when we talk about the thing specifically for me, like in my health, like I started lifting again this week and like it hurts and it's hard. And I let myself go in so many ways that I'm in worse physical shape. Like you look on the camera, like I'm not like I'm not like in terrible, but like compared to what I have felt in the past and what I know, like I'm in worse physical shape than I've ever been in. And so for me, when you look at my wheel, like some of the other things needed to shift and I've been continuing to release. I've been doing a lot of the unforgiveness work. I've been doing a lot of the work that we call you to do in the things that we give you. I mean, if you look at Align Life, like we live this out. And that's why it's like, I think what people forget sometimes is like, just because you have the tool now, it's fixed. It's a journey, right? And like healing, it goes, it's
the tool.
yeah. And so like I've been going through in this season of like, okay, where do I have opportunities? And I'm like, okay, in my health. And so I'm going to the work that we have and we literally give you this in all the C2C work, like setting your daily non-negotiables and being really consistent. Like, can you get good results and get really great things in your life without doing all of these things consistently? Sure, but there's consequences, right? And like when you're balanced, it changes things. And so for me, like I'm walking into this new season and I'm curious in the next month or two when I get through a handful of weeks of this new schedule and getting my health to be where it should be from a movement perspective, what continues to break off.
Yeah. That's interesting. So interesting because so my previous life, like when I lived up in, we're close to you before I got remarried and started my 2.0 era is what I call it. My physical being, my workout, my eating, my supplementation, like what I considered my physical health and some other parts of it was like so in check, but largely because that's what my career revolved around. I was involved in like a health and wellness, weight loss. That was what I did, right? But like my emotional, my marriage, like everything in that like section of my life and that wheel fell apart. And not because I was taking care of my health, but like it just was falling apart. So I overcompensated in that area. Well, it's interesting because as you were saying that, I thought about this shift for myself. When I got remarried to my wonderful husband, who I just need Jesus for every single day, Chad, love that man if he listens. Anyways, he knows I love him. But
I wondered, I was talking about Ryan, and I'm like, I wonder if they even listen to this.
no, I know Chad. I don't know. He might see the clips, but anyways, I completely like let go of my physical, like tending to myself and my body, and not like in a way like where like you said, I still like quality foods, but a block of cheese is not conducive to fitting in your jeans, guys. Like there are things like you can't just drink the whole thing. And not saying I drank half and half, but like calories count. It's like expenditure. You can spend money on good things, but then still go broke, right? You can eat too much good quality food and it just isn't conducive to your health and active movement. And I was so happy and so fulfilled in my current life and in my relationship, and like that part of my wheel went like this and just grew and expanded, that my physical health and nurturing that went like this. And so I actually had to make a pretty big shift, and that was something that was really interesting for me because I'd never struggled with that in my life. And I found actually the tipping point for me was pretty small because I am very self-aware. You get that way when you're 40. You become self-aware, something that comes with age in your, fourth decade of life. But what happened was I tipped the scales at 10 pounds higher than I ever wanted to be. And I was like, oh no, something's got to give. I'm not going to be in the happiest season of my life with the longest sustained peace that I've ever encountered, married to my answer to prayer, like my husband. He's not perfect, but he is so, so, so good, and be miserable in my skin, because that's a reality for women. And so it's interesting that you say that and you call that out, because mine was real similar, Lindsay, but it was also very different circumstances that led me to that point. And so I actually got back on this bus back in October, and I started doing strength training, and I started eating high quality, clean, but also mindful of my calorie intake, because just like we said, you can spend money on tons of good things and still be broke. Like, well, you can eat lots of good food and still get fat. Like that's kind of, and feel uncomfortable and have more fat than muscle. And let's face it, you're getting to be not a spring chicken. I'm officially 40, so I'm not a spring chicken. And I am, although yes, like looking good in my clothes is important, I'm really more interested in like skeletal structure, like composure, like keeping my bones healthy. So muscle mass is, yes, I want to have muscles because they look great, but also because I want my bones to be healthy. And so
No,
there is that.
longevity play. Like it's a longevity play. And I think so like, and that's where I think the tools become so much more important. And I don't know that we fully realize it. Like if you don't do these audits, and we talked about this on the frequency of when you should be pulling a line life back out, when you should be doing this. But like if you don't do this at the right frequency, like getting off for a few months that's not the end of the world. But if you don't catch it for a year or you don't catch it for 9 months, you can fix it, but there are consequences.
I will tell you, if you're an airplane and you leave Los Angeles and you think you're headed for the Tahitian Islands, your 3 degrees off will take you to Australia, not Tahiti. Like, you will not go where you think you're going, even with being 3 degrees off. And I'm not like a travel geography expert. I just kind of know the world map over there. And you guys are probably going to be like, yeah, that's not correct, Krystal. But you know what I'm saying. So you're absolutely correct, Lindsay. Like, you can do it for a minute, but you have got to true back up. And that's what I learned. And so I started lifting, strength training every single week, 3 times a week, and really monitoring, like just tracking my food. Not perfect, but awareness of it. And it has made such a difference. And so I'm really proud and excited for you, friend, because I just know, like, when you get these, like, when all these quadrants of your body, your mind, and your soul are all three aligned, not that you can contribute equal amounts of time to them every single day, but when they are aligned, right? And we talk about this in Chaos to Control. If you have not gone through Chaos to Control, do yourself a favor and go through it. We'll link it below. If you do not have aligned life, like, do yourself a favor. Stop right now. Everything, do not pass go. Go get your life in alignment and figure this out, because it will change the way that you perceive everything, right, Linz?
100%. And I think that's where, like, we are educators and we teach this, but we live it. And we don't, anything that we've created, and a lot of these are free resources, but like anything that we've created is literally just something that we live out, right? Or that we use as a resource. It's not stuff that we just like, I wonder, we didn't ask AI what people would think they would want, which is such an interesting conversation too, about like how you use AI and what you use it for.
Wait a minute, you are literally reading my mind. We're fixing to take a hard shift. And on that note, actually, we're going to go ahead and shift into it. So the second part of the pod is totally going to be about, we have, and again, did it wrong, had to learn some life lessons, had to figure some stuff out, right? Because
10,000 hours.
Right. With the, like, with the super abundance, the super just everywhere in your face of AI everywhere all the time, you hardly can't have a conversation without like grabbing it, using it's everywhere. It's like what the social media was before we had social media, and then social media became such a thing in our life. That's what AI has kind of become, that new norm for mankind. And so Lindsay and I, because we do have that unsubscribe us thread running through everything we do at KL, because we do unsubscribe from worldly views. We do. Like, we just push against it. We say no. We say we're not going to fall to those, like, so we actually have a free masterclass coming up, you guys. It's going to be powerful. We'll link the link below. But one of the things we've noticed, and as we've researched and as we've walked into this journey, is one of the biggest resources that AI will actually take from mankind as we know it. It's not water, although that's a really popular trending subject.
Well, and it's also a real concern. But yeah,
it is a real concern. But did you know? Can I just go ahead and throw this out there? Do you know what uses more fresh water than AI?
I don't.
Golf courses.
I can believe that.
So now I'm not saying I'm not concerned about the fresh water. Absolutely, I'm always concerned about fresh water usage. I like lots of water. However, if you're going to choose a hill to die on, do your research. Don't be out there golfing and then dying on the hill about AI using water. Just saying, okay? But the bottom line is, I'm not, I'm probably going to get lots of, bring it on. If you guys want to comment about it and riff back and forth,
let's hear it. Because I think it's one of those, like, it's a complicated topic, especially now because it's becoming so political, of like whether it's good or bad for the world and all of that. But I think no matter what camp you're in, like, it's not going away.
It's not going away, but back to what I was trying to say. One of the biggest resources it will ever steal from mankind is the ability to think critically. And we are now entering into this era of the latter part of 2026 and 2027, what they're going to call, if they're going to look back historically, and it's going to be considered the Great Thought Recession. Because what happened, and honestly, you guys, if you are somebody who is able to critically think, and you have thoughts, and you can put things together, and you can map out solutions, and you can solve problems, and you don't have to turn to your computer to figure something out, right? Like, you can actually like think through these things. That skill set is going to become a lost art. Kind of like the past decade, blue collar workers like plumbers and electricians and people that could actually do things with their hands was becoming such a lost art because everybody was migrating into the technology field and like computer.
Here's a great example of that. No, here's a great example of that. Counting back change.
Yeah.
Counting back
Kids can't
change.
change.
No one
Yeah.
knows how to count back change. We bought sparklers the other day, and Ryan's like, she didn't give me back, but like he was all annoyed about his change being wrong, and it was like $1.47, whatever it was, I don't know. And
Yeah.
people don't know how to count back change because
Yeah. It's such a
calculators
thing.
and POS systems, like point of scale systems, not POS systems,
Yeah.
point of scale systems, like taking
Yeah.
over, like, and so it's the same. Like this is the same thing but different. Like that whole idea that people wouldn't know how to tell time. Like the school my daughter goes to teaches them how to tell time on a clock, right? But in a lot of kids, if you go around and like do that fun little game where you microphone people, they don't know how to tell time on a clock.
Yeah.
So those are like
Yeah.
small examples of like where this has happened in the past. But this one's a little bit, I don't want to say scarier, because it's also like taking your, like you said, your ability to actually think through a problem.
Well,
If
and what happens is
you let it.
it's a combination of numbness and laziness is what it really is. And humans in general, we will always go back to the easy button. That's why McDonald's is a bazillion-dollar company, because when you can get supper in a sack in 5 minutes and be done, right? We are always just going to pick the easy button. And so what Lindsay and I have discovered is, as of this last year, we've actually built tons of AI tools for clients and put some freaking amazing infrastructure in place that have completely changed the course and trajectory of how some of these companies are doing business. And it's been able to like make them even better at their jobs because they're been able to spend more time with the human touch, right? And building that relationship, and less with the arduous like rigmarole and more with the human interaction. So one of the things that Lindsay and I are really challenging people right now with, and one of the things that we're really going to talk about in this masterclass that we're doing on July 21st, is how to keep human brain above AI. Because regardless of what you think, and Lindsay, I want you to like kind of tangent on this for a minute, is the human brain is way more complex than AI. And Lindsay's going to explain to you why that is. But people are now taking artificial intelligence opinions and implementing them. And that's scary. And we cannot do that. We are created in the image of God. Our minds, our wisdom, our thoughts, like we have been given, it has been spoken in divine power, and we're replacing it with a computer. So, Lindsay, talk a little bit about this. Like let's kind of unpack this just a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to be clear too, like, as we're having this conversation, Krystal and I use AI every single day. So this is not in every day and in nearly every part of our business. And we implement it in nearly every part of our clients' businesses. So all of that as like a caveat of what we're about to say. I genuinely believe AI is a really great tool. I think it can be used to help in a lot of ways. It can be used to help a number of different places. Where I think you have to be really mindful is putting guardrails on what and how you do that. And I think the first step of that is really knowing your organization and knowing what your values are of your organization. We were on a call with a client actually the other day, and we were actually having this conversation around like, we know that you want your client experience to feel luxury, high end, high touch. There's places where AI belongs and there's places where it doesn't. Right. And even if you're going to use AI for content, like, and this is, I'm really weird about this, man, you got to be so careful because everyone's already starting to see through it. Like it's just, you got to, like, there's a mentor I worked with years ago that always said, assume the people that are buying from you are not monkeys and they're not dumb. You know what I mean? Like they're not. And like, depending on who your target market is, like, they're not dumb. And so if you're just spouting out AI garbage, they know. And it looks like you're lazy and like you don't care. And if that's alignment with your brand, depending on your brand, that may not be a big deal, right? But most likely, if you're listening to this podcast, that's probably not the brand that you have. You probably care a lot about service. You care a lot about high touch. You care a lot about the clients, how they experience your brand. And so,
well, and your character and integrity.
Right. Like you care a lot about how they feel going through it. And I think for me and like for our organization and where we've helped other clients with this is like we've put AI in places that optimize that. right? Optimize an incredible client experience. They optimize the ability for you to be able to not miss things and do things at a higher quality level. They take tasks that are mundane or that you're doing over and over and over and over, and they automate those in a way that allows your team to focus on continuing to create that incredible experience. And so for us, like, we look at AI as a incredible tool that should definitely be leveraged. Different tools for different things. I want to be really clear. So if you've always lived in the ChatGPT box, that's great for certain things. And then you should be looking at Gemini for other things. And you should be looking at Claude for other things. Like, there's different things for different things. So I want to be really clear. This idea that like all AI is equal is not accurate. They all have different abilities. They're all artificial intelligence. They're all most likely a long language model, like, which is meant to come up with an X word that makes sense. They're all in the same framework, but the way that you use them and what you get out of them is different. The analogy we used to give was like, it's like an intern. The more information you give them, the better, but you still have to check their work. I would argue that certain levels of these are getting to where they're like a junior something, if you've worked in the corporate world, a junior something, entry level employee, right? They you still got to check their work, but they're getting better and better, depending how you use it, depending how you train it. But man, it's so important that for protecting yourself, protecting the brand that you've built, and frankly, just for like protecting the future, that you use them in a way that serves what we're trying to accomplish without replacing your voice. And I think that's where, like, we have a really strong line in our organization. Like, it can't replace the voice, can't replace thinking. It can be a good brainstorming tool. It can be a good resource for helping us reword things. Like, those are places we use them, but in a box. And so I think you have to be really, really careful how you implement AI, because this is my opinion. We're in a trust recession already. And I don't think that using AI for your copy and using AI for your front-facing content without the right setup, man, I think that's going to do huge issues for you from a trust perspective. I think it's gonna have a really negative impact on what you're trying to create. That's my hypothesis.
Well, and there's also a reality, and I'm seeing this so much online. I didn't even know this was a thing, Lindsay. And like, so we spend a lot of time helping people with social media and actually like giving lots of coaching on social media content and that kind of thing. I did not know this because we don't do it. So there is a thing on Facebook and on Instagram where it literally flags your content that says, this was AI. And I was like, and it was brought to my attention about a month ago on one of our coaching calls in our TBA group. And one of the girls was telling me about this, and I was like, what? I have never even seen this, because I don't consume a lot of content. I build content, I publish it, and then I step off the internet. Like, I just don't consume content. I don't know. I'm really into my real life right now, so I don't consume a lot of content. And so unless I'm with my husband and we are watching his TikTok together, like, that's kind of how we consume content. Anyways, I digress. And I was like, that's amazing. I didn't know that. And it just really drove home the fact that it's so important to start with the human brain first. Your thought, your filters, your judgment, your character, your integrity, all of these things that make you so uniquely you. And then you can leverage AI as a tool. And this is actually part of the stuff that Lindsay and I are going to get into in this masterclass. And that's what's going to be so important, because we're actually going to give you some real life filters and some real life, like, do this, not that scenarios on how to do it, and do it with integrity, and do it without losing yourself. Because I don't think anybody would look you straight in the eye and say, yeah, I'm okay with AI speaking for me and talking for me and putting words in my mouth on my behalf. I don't think there's any human in the world that's in my pretty large circle that I think would actually say that out loud and be okay with it. Yet they are doing it unaware, and that's scary. And so we're trying to bring some awareness to this conversation, because, like Lindsay and I said, we have been submerged in this work deeply, very deeply and intrinsically for over a year. And we have made some mistakes with it. Like, we've had to go back and be like, oh yeah, we did that wrong. It is obvious that it's wrong. It was glaringly wrong. Went back and fixed it, and we're like, okay, learned a lesson. And that's why we're teaching it, is because we figured out the better way. So very, very important, Linz, right?
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to dig into this, because I think, like I said, if you're not using AI, you're missing the boat. So, like, you need to use it.
Yeah.
And And frankly, like we're really good at it. So like we could definitely help you if you don't know where to start. But I think it's so important that you just don't go like just like just like if you were gonna go bowling, like kids get like bumpers for a minute. Like I think there's a really important like have bumpers for a minute and understand because this is one of those things that we don't fully understand. And we're making the best decisions we can as we go, but you have to do it with wisdom and you have to be really mindful as you're walking through how you're going to use it and what you're going to use it for. And frankly, if you want to continue to stand out in the markets, because I think people are seeing this as like an easy way to produce certain things, an easy way to out on a lot of things that were less fun. And I appreciate that, but I think that's going to have a really negative impact on people's results. And so finding out how to use this the right way right off the bat, at least the way that we were early adopters, we always are. And so like Krystal said, we used it in a way that I don't necessarily think was the best way. And that's where we've come to from our perspective on the way we think it should be used. But we've also had a lot of conversations around the long-term impact of this. Like we're thinking a lot of what we want how we want our kids to use it and what we think is important for society. Which is why some of those bigger questions around sustainability and all of that come into play. But yeah, it's just push and pull. It's an interesting topic.
It's interesting. It's funny because my 19-year-old daughter, Cole, anytime I mention something, she's like, quit using AI or drinking all our drinking water. We're not going to be able to have water. And I actually love that that's her stance. Because I know that, and I want her to be concerned about those kinds of things, because those are real things that really do matter. Like that is a real concern, and we need to really be mindful of that. But I love it for her because it's also really encouraging her critical thinking and her ability to really think through things and not do that because she is so concerned about that. And so whatever it is that you need to kind of do, and now with that said, she's going to have to learn to use it because she's 20 years old and she will not remember a world without it, you know? But I have a story. I want to tell you like a little parable that comes to mind as we think about this. And this was from a really dear friend of mine. She sent this to me a while back, but it's so applicable here. So there's a little boy and he brings this like shriveled up butterfly to his mother. And he says, Mom, what's wrong with this butterfly? And he's like looking at it and it's all kind of like shriveled and its wings are not quite fully like, all the way popped out. And his mom asks him, she said, what did you do? And he's like, well, it was trying to come out of its chrysalis, its cocoon. And so I just helped it just a little bit and just a little bit more. And then this is what happened. And he was so sad because the butterfly looked disabled and like he wasn't going to be able to live. And she said, son, she said, I know you were trying to help, but there's purpose in the strength. There's purpose in the struggle. And there's a reason why the butterfly has to push to get out of its chrysalis. It's so that its wings can be strong, it can break free, and it can thrive and live. And so that is like a universal principle that we as humans and as humankind will never escape. And Lindsay was talking about it earlier in strength training. There is a muscle that is developed, a critical thinking muscle of reasoning when we wrestle with things and things aren't easy and we're forced to like really just deeply contemplate things. And so my challenge to you today would be if you are allowing your artificial intelligence usage to take place of you deeply wrestling and allowing your soul to deeply wrestle with really important topics and things that your brain needs to unpack and you need to pray about and meditate about and seek like counsel from another wise human, then you're probably doing yourself a really big injustice. And you're probably like literally, like Lindsay was saying, if you don't strength train, your brain is becoming skinny fat, where it has no strength, it has no longevity, it has no like forward motion. It's going to just shrink and shrivel. Don't allow that to happen, you guys. That's such a powerful example, and it's such a principle that you'll never escape.
Yeah, it's crazy because like that's part of what I think like chaos to control and align, like all of the stuff that we have is all about you growing a very well-rounded, strong life. And it's in all the places, because if at any point you are not building those muscles, it's kind of like if you're not building, you're dying, right? And so it's so important that you continue in using the tools, which is why we know this one is kind of the next big muscle to focus on, because we're seeing what's happening from a consequence perspective for people, and an intangible reality, like results aren't going there, they're not getting the business results they want, all of those kinds of things from something that we feel like we've got a really strong muscle on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like I said, and then this is also just to let you guys kind of know what's coming down the pipeline. There's going to be more parts to this, because this is the first initial masterclass that we're going to do. So of course we always deep dive in TBA. So if you're like, this is something I just want to be into, we'll put TBA below. If you want to go ahead and join it, you can join the masterclass, but we're going to keep taking this to the deeper level and the deeper level, because this isn't only going to affect you, it's going to affect your children. And in fact, probably your children more so than you, because they're never going to remember, like, Lindsay's kids will never remember a world without this, unfortunately. Or, I mean, we do. We grew up in a generation where we saw the whole entire process, but our kids will never. And so we've got to be able to put safety rails and guardrails around their little minds and their little thoughts, because that's so, so, so important. And so as we take you through this journey, those are places that we're really going to deep dive into and help you understand and help you put really good filters on, so that you can protect your children and protect the generations to come. So just a couple things. So we'll put all those links in the show notes so you guys have access to them.
Yeah. But this whole conversation, this masterclass, is one of our free gifts. So definitely sign up. You won't want to miss it. If you can't catch it live, you can always, this will be available on replay.
Yep. It will be for a period.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely, I'm looking at Krystal like, right? Yeah. But yeah, we can't wait to kind of dive more into this with you guys. It'll be great.
Yep. So, okay. Well, thank you guys for being on. We'll catch you at the next episode.
Have a good day.
Friends.
Well, thank you so much for listening today. We are so glad that we got the opportunity to spend this time with you. If as you were listening and things felt like, wow, or you had one of those moments, what's our favorite? If it's like, oh, that's a nugget. Man, we hope that you stick around. We want you to subscribe. And that way you can hear all of the amazing things that we're going to be riffing about and give us some feedback on all the things.
Absolutely. Everything we teach comes from real live experiences. We don't build any tools that we ourselves have not had to use and have been absolutely desperate for ourselves. And so building crazy revenue streams, building under pressure, turning chaos into structure is actually what we do best. And we have learned from some of the lowest of lows and gotten to come back on top of the mountain. So thank you for taking that time to listen with us.
Yeah. So make sure you tune in, continue to steal from our 10,000 hours and the amazing guests that we get to bring on the podcast, so that you can continue to grow, learn, and be the best version of yourself. So tune in for the next one. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye.